Okay, so my name is Gene Kress. I am a small solo practitioner attorney, almost all criminal law. It's shortened for Eugene Kress, so my law office is called the Law Office of Eugene A. Kress, Jr. But I primarily practice criminal law, mostly in Hamilton County now. I used to travel the entire state, but I've dialed it back a little bit in the last few years. So we were looking for ways to, essentially when you're in a small practice, this is going to sound a little confusing, but there's only one way to give yourself a raise, and that's to cut your expenses. So my wife and I just spoke about how we could do that. I was in a normal brick and mortar building, secretary, a couple other attorneys, rent, utilities, storage, employees. And we realized that I was not utilizing it in the practice the way I guess for the amount of money I was paying for it. And so we started doing some research and happened upon the virtual office idea. I started researching it a little more, and we actually started as an experiment with a smaller place. I can't even remember its name right now because it was fly-by-night. And I thought, if this is gonna work, it's gotta be something I can trust. And so again, a little more research. We fell on the virtual office brand. We saw the building they were in, a lot more substance, a lot more substantial, a lot more credibility. And so we went for it. And I can't even tell you how many years ago that is. It's more than 10, I think now. So it's just worked out very well. So yeah, now I'm just in a strictly virtual office situation. Okay, so many years ago now, several years ago, I was in basically a standard brick and mortar law office that you would walk in the front door, see the receptionist, a couple other lawyers, desks, furnishings, just what you expect in a law office. And when you're a small solo practitioner like I am, you learn that there's only one way that you can give yourself a raise your salary, and that's to cut expenses. So I reached a point in time when I wanted to see how I could cut expenses. And my wife was doing my accounting for me, doing my books. So she and I started looking at everything we were spending our money on and realized I wasn't utilizing my office space. I was in court a lot. I wasn't utilizing the receptionist. I wasn't utilizing a paralegal. I had access to those in other ways. So we started doing our research on how we could eliminate that expense and fell on what I now know as a virtual office idea. At first we started out in a much smaller place just as an experiment, and it turned out to be a failed experiment. The place we used was just a receptionist. There was no office space. She would get our mail, but there was very limited access to it, and she ultimately went out of business. I don't know if someone wasn't paying her or what it was. So after that failed experiment, we were concerned that we could find a substantive enough place to actually call it our office. I'm a lawyer. I have to have a place I can call my office. And that's when we fell on the Virtual Office by Design brand. I did some research on them. We saw the building. We saw that it was a much more substantial outfit than the one we'd been using. That brand gets glowing reviews whenever you look it up online. And the price is very good. And there's multiple receptionists, so I always get my phone calls. There's a physical office I can use, as well as meeting rooms to do depositions and things like that. They do take my mail. They will also accept packages. They will also accept items from clients that would otherwise not come in the mail, documents, things like that that are of a more private nature, and they're always secured. It's in a secure location behind lock and key. And we were just really impressed, and we started using it. Worked out so well. We've been there for several years now, and I can't imagine what it would be like to go back to a brick and mortar office again. I would never use it, especially in the technology world we live in today. I can do everything on a phone or a computer. I'm going to start this one off with a little interesting anecdote. I was in court today and saw a colleague of mine I hadn't seen in some time who has a brick and mortar office in a part of the city called Broad Ripple here. And Broad Ripple's been undergoing a lot of changes of late. And so I asked him, how's Broad Ripple doing? How's your office doing? And he was a little dismayed. He goes, I'm not happy with the area. He goes, we're thinking about moving. And I said, where are you moving to? And he goes, I don't know. And he asked me specifically, what are you doing? So I had an opportunity to sort of talk to him about this a little bit. And I said, I'm in this virtual office now, virtual office by design. I told him over in Allison Point Boulevard. I go, it's a great location. You're right off the freeway. So you can get, he's one of these guys like I used to be, works all the courtrooms, goes to Boone County, Hendricks County, Hancock County, Hamilton County, downtown. So being right off the freeway, if you do want to stop in, get your mail, meet a client, do a deposition, you're right there. You can get on there. So we talked about it a little bit, and I told him there's receptionists that answer the phones very professionally. After hours, you will get voicemails that will go directly to your phone. Every message that comes in is directly texted to my phone. I see it immediately. I can sort through the calls that I need to make and the ones I don't need to make, which is important with what I do. You know, one of the better aspects of it is it's a really nice building, and if I have to do a deposition or have someone in my office, it's probably a nicer office than I used to be in beforehand. Upkeep is very nice, the furniture is very nice, it's very professional. People are always welcomed into the deposition or the meeting, offered water, coffee, that sort of thing, just like you would get in a brick and mortar office, without the overhead, because it's sort of shared in a virtual situation. So, yeah. Because of some things that have been ongoing in the community, I actually use on my business card a post office box, and only when I invite clients to the office do I get them to the Allisonville, I keep saying Allisonville, Allison Point address. So yeah, there is that aspect of it, yeah. I use basically, I think, everything they provide. I have used their meeting rooms for depositions. I have used their single offices for private meetings. I get my mail there. I get packages there. As I think we talked about a little bit, I get private documents and such wise delivered to me there. If I need to call in, they will check to see if I have mail, and they will actually tell me what's there, if there's anything that's important that I need to see. If there's not and it can wait, they say this, you know, they'll tell me and I say that can wait, which saves me loads of time. I can leave the courthouse and drive straight home instead of having to go check mail every day, which is something I used to do in my office. I use the receptionist, call answering. That's the best aspect of it. I don't miss any phone calls. They answer I've had to call in. They answer the phone very professionally. You would not know that you were not calling directly into a law office if you called me. If my memory serves me, they've been up to 4 people there. The 3 receptionists that have been there now have been there the longest, and they've been there for a significant amount of time. And I get messages from all 3 of them. So I don't know, I really don't know this, if my calls come in randomly or not, or how they're responded to, but all 3 of them have sent me messages that they took a call from me, so I use them all. All right, the greatest benefit for me is I am almost always in a courtroom. Now I can always be in a courtroom without any fear, for example, of missing a call or missing a package, or especially a call from a judge or another attorney that I need to speak with. The people at the receptionists at Virtual Office by Design know to exclamation point those messages, and they'll sometimes even call me directly, not just send me a text. My phone, if I see my phone buzz and I see VOBD, I know I got to pick it up. So it's just really helped me manage time more than anything. The other benefit is, you know, I get a lot of feedback when I do depositions or when I do meet a client, and they're always impressed by the building. That's one of the, you know, these buildings are right off the freeway. People see them all the time, but they don't often go back there. And when they do, they are like, hey, this is one of those buildings I always see from the freeway. And you know, I recognize it. There's some meaning to it there. So I think that's really been a benefit to me. I think it's, to a certain extent, I won't say it's raised my profile, but it hasn't hurt it for people to drive up Allison Point Boulevard and see where my office is. So I touched on this earlier about the only way I can, as a sole practitioner, give myself a raise is to cut costs. And when I was in a brick and mortar office, there were two aspects of it that cost me money. Number one was the overhead was so much higher than it is now. That alone gave me what amounted to a significant amount of personal income, going from a brick and mortar office with employees to a virtual office where everything's encompassed into one package and one price every month. I don't have, there's no worries about a hidden cost. I know what I'm going to pay every month for my office space. The other thing is time management. When I was in a brick and mortar office, I spent a lot of time waiting on people, sitting in my office doing nothing because there was a phone call I had to expect or something I had to do after hours that I wasn't going to be able to take care of. And so I kind of count that into giving myself a raise, because now that time that was spent twiddling my thumbs on an afternoon when I didn't have to be in court, I can either go home, I can go to the golf course, I can make phone calls, I can go down to the offices of Virtual Office by Design and meet a client there. There's other ways I can utilize my time, and so the true benefit for me is it in a way is increase my income and increase the amount of free time I have. So Virtual Office by Design has a really good reputation. It's the first, when we were doing our research, and again, this was several years ago, and I think even research 7, 8, or 9 years ago is different than it is today. You can Google something, and I think if you Googled Virtual Office, they might be on top, I would think, or very close. And so that's what we started out. We did the failed experiment with one smaller company, and that's when we got really scared. Are all these virtual office places just fly-by-night, you know, tiny one-person offices in a you know, month-by-month rental space? And so when we got some information about Virtual Office Design, again, saw the building, saw the substance, the reviews that we could read at the time were all very positive. Met the owner at the time, really nice guy. In fact, I played golf with him several times. Met his daughter at the time. It was a family business. And they sort of explained to me the dynamic of the business and how they got involved and why they got involved with this brand. And everything came together. And again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but there's a substance, a substantial aspect to their brick and mortar. What they have developed as an office space, and the location. I mean, it was clear that this was not, when we first saw it and first went in the building, it was clear this was not a fly-by-night one person with a one-line telephone answering calls and maybe taking your mail occasionally. There was a substance to this business that was evident immediately. Okay, so when I talk to my friends, my buddies, when you know, I'm on, you know, other lawyers that are talking to me about their situations and about their offices and what I'm doing, I immediately tell them that they need to investigate the idea of a virtual office, and I bring Virtual Office by Design up by name because of how successful it's been for me. And I use the same things we've sort of talked about. I say, do you want to cut your expenses? Do you want to give yourself a raise? Or utilize your money in different ways. Maybe you start advertising differently, or use it in a way that maybe helps you earn more income, and talk about all the aspects of it. I think a lot of my attorney friends feel like they must be tied to a receptionist, a paralegal, a desk, their name on the front door, and everyone. I won't say everyone knows me, but I'm fairly well known in the legal community where I do my work, and people, I think, see that I do it every single day of the week and don't need that receptionist or paralegal or name on the door. These are all things that you can get wrapped up in, one convenient package, as it were, with a virtual office. And I have nothing but good things to say about the concept of a virtual office and Virtual Office by Design in and of itself. And I make sure whenever anybody asks me, and sometimes I just tell them just without being asked, that this is what you need to do. Because I've talked to younger lawyers. I said, look, this is what you need to do. You don't need to be in that huge office with a desk and 3 employees. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about who would benefit from a virtual office or Virtual Office by Design is lawyers. It's because of what I do. It fits perfectly with what I do for a living as an attorney. Everything falls into place. I think any type of small practitioner professional, like an accountant, financial planner, these types of jobs where you have to really decide if you need to have brick and mortar, if you need to have a receptionist, if you need to have the overhead, you can eliminate it. And then I think about other small business types, a small business contractor, a construction worker who's going to be building a home and on a job site all day. Who's he going to have that will accept his mail, will answer his phone calls when he's pounding nails, who will accept secure packages and things like contracts and keep them safe? And also get him messages throughout the day that might make him money. A landscaper, very similar, something like that. We see these guys, cutting trees down. All these types of jobs, I think, it's very suited for a small business where you are not going to be in one location all day, but you need to have someone there to help you take care of your business. And if you're not going to be behind a desk all day, it has the benefit of that too, because you can be behind a desk all day, but you can be behind a desk somewhere besides your office and still get your mail and your packages and your phone calls. And I think if these small businesses, I know it worked for me, if you look at where you're spending your money every month, if you really dial it in, I think you'll find out you're spending more money. They will find out they're spending more money monthly than they would by having a virtual office with receptionists, with mail, with security, with a brick and mortar building. Because when you're in some of these types of business, you don't realize how much money you're spending having to contract that work or stop doing what you're doing or find someone else to do what you're doing to take care of the business that the virtual office takes care of. So the future of my business is going to hopefully remain pretty steady. My business as it is now is I'm dialing it back from what used to be me traveling over the entire state, which is where Virtual Office really came in at its most handiest, because there were times, I was going from South Bend to Tell City, from Richmond to Terre Haute. I was everywhere in any given day. And that's when the true benefit came out. But now I'm primarily going to be working in 1 or 2 counties. And I don't want to keep an office anywhere. So that again is where the benefit of Virtual Office by Design is coming in, because I don't have to have an office. I can bounce around to the 2 or 3 counties I want to work in. And by being able to do that, you know, really, again, I'm sort of I'm a small practitioner, I'm a sole practitioner. That's why it's so perfect for me. I try to grow my business, but I try to grow it slowly, and that's why I'm now coming back to just two or three, mostly like Hamilton County, Madison County, Hancock County, an area more rural, because I want to get out of the city, quite honestly. We want to move towards someplace a little quieter, and that's worked out. And again, being able to do that, being in multiple places at one time and still being able to have an office address has been one of the true benefits of the virtual office. So, so the future for me is in many ways just going to remain the same. It's been a steady growth period since we started, and I expect that to continue. And you know, what we get from virtual office has been very steady, very reliable, and over time, to a certain extent, it's gotten better because I think they've expanded some of the services that I don't see as much, but I know my wife does, who does the accounting and does a lot of the mail pickup and these types of things. So yeah. I think that anyone who has a brick and mortar type facility, who has a building with their name on it in any way, shape, or form, who has these overhead expenses, I think any business, small business is probably very appropriate, but I think even some medium to larger businesses that don't have their employees all in one place all the time, where people are jumping around like job sites to job sites, that type of thing. I think it's just so beneficial. It's such a time saver. It's such a money saver. I don't think people realize how much time they spend. How can I put this? When you're in an office, I don't think people understand how much time they spend doing nothing because they feel like they have to be tied to that office. And when you're not tied to it anymore and you're still getting the same benefit, you have more free time, you have more money saved, and you can use that time and money to do anything you want. Grow your business, work harder, take time off, play golf, spend time with your family, do whatever you want. So I think I think there's still a nervous faction to it, that people are still a little scared to get out of the here's my office building situation, but I think everyone should at least give it a try. Okay, so COVID changed my business model significantly. When it first hit, March-ish, I can't really remember the date, the courts where I work primarily just shut down. The business just shut down. The virtual office was very helpful because I did not have to go anywhere to get my messages, to know if there was something important I needed to deal with, and still had a communication line with my clients that I would not have had if I had to go to an office or if I had to tell a receptionist or a paralegal, you need to take the next 3 months off. They found a way to work kind of, I think, a hybrid virtual from home, set up the phone system so some receptionists, some people could work from home, some would come into the office to check the mail multiple times a week. And there may have been a blip on the screen where everything had to change over, but it was done quickly, it was done professionally, and I don't think anyone that I deal with from a professional aspect noticed any change in the service. I was really happy about that. Now the courts are doing some are doing virtual hearings still. Some are doing in-person hearings. I've actually been in a courtroom where I had to go into court on one floor and then go out to a room and open up a computer to do a virtual hearing in a court that's on another floor. So it's been a very odd time. But, you know, this is something I really hadn't thought about because it's the kind of thing that you don't think about. It's because it's always ongoing. But, you know, virtual office by design, their employees, the people who work for me because they work for them, have been there through the whole thing and really made it really easy for me to work. You know, some days I would, you know, have court hearings and have to work and get these messages and other things I do, and I'd be doing court hearings from a room in my home. Again, it extracted from me the concern, the fear, the worry about I'm not in my office. And I didn't have to worry about losing money on those types of expenses through COVID. And it's going to be ongoing. These courts are not back to full speed yet. So I think this is another reason I'm talking to some people that are becoming very concerned about their overhead. And it really hit hard in the legal community those first few months because, you know, people were not, you know, you make a list of what you're going to spend your money on, and it doesn't go lawyer food, it goes food lawyer. So, you know, everyone got hit real hard, and we made it through, and I'll tell you, you know, I made it through with the help of Virtual Office and their employees and, you know, just everyone working together. So it really started when we walked in the front door of the building. I said, this is different. The lobby, the accoutrements, the furniture, the people, there's other professional businesses in there. There's businesses other than Virtual Office by Design on each floor. There was a vibrant nature to it. You were definitely in an office building. When you walk through the front doors of Virtual Office, you're greeted by a receptionist. You can see who's working there. You can see there's other people with office space there. There's people working. It was completely different than any experience I had had previously. And I've used this word before, there was just a substance to it that you could not deny. It's nothing I can put my finger on. I can't tell you what it is or why, but it was clearly evident just, again, walking through the front door, meeting the owner, meeting the people who were taking the phone calls, seeing that there was consistency, seeing that there was reliability, asking how long have you been here, and hearing that some of these receptionists had been there for years. And so, you know, credibility, it all boiled down to it. It was easy to see, and I haven't regretted the decision. So one of the very nice things about the people who work for Virtual Office by Design is this. They take the time, and I don't know this by asking questions or seeing it, I know this because of the work that they've done over the years. They take the time to learn your business as they assist you doing your business. They understand which phone calls come in after a period of time when you say that's important. They recognize it. This piece of mail is important. You know, if this person calls, I don't need to hear from them right now. And they develop an understanding of what your business is and what you do. And so immediately if something important happens, they know to contact me. Immediately if an important letter comes in, they know to get a hold of me. They also know when to leave me alone. It goes back to, it's a virtual office, but they are my employees in a way, and they partner with me by learning my business. And I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure they do this for every business that comes in the door, or else they wouldn't do it for mine. I've developed a relationship with all these folks who work there over the years, so I consider them friends, and I consider them, it's hard to call them employees because I don't sign their paycheck, but I consider them definite parts of my business. Each individual person that works there is part of the law office of Eugene A. Kress. And I appreciate that what they've done over the years is learn what my business is and what's important to me, like an employee would. And I think they, you know, they don't call me boss, but I'm sure they know that that in a way they work for me, but in a more important way, they more are partners in my business. So as a businessman, a lawyer, but running my own office, I do have to consider the business aspects of it. When it comes to business, I mean finances, money, what's going in the door, what's going out the door, what's coming in the door, taxes, accounting for different things. All these are so important. And so, again, several years ago, we just did an accounting of the business. We made a financial plan. We looked at our taxes over the last several years, what we were spending in taxes on things that could be easily replaced. And so we've settled on the notion of a virtual office as opposed to a brick and mortar office, and more specifically virtual office by design after I learned more about them. Because as a businessman, it's all about black and white. Really, it's just about, am I making money or am I not? Am I going to be able to pay myself a salary or am I not? Am I going to be able to pay my bills or am I not? And so the money savings was a huge aspect of it. It's just, I could go on and on about that aspect of it alone. And the other aspect is that it does free up enough time for me for other pursuits. If I want to take on tasks, jobs, other employment income I wouldn't have been able to do previously, I can do that now. In my opinion, part of my business is just the fact that time is part of my business. As a lawyer, time is very important. Everyone hears about lawyers talking about billable hours and these types of things. Time has to be one of the things at the top of my list. And moving to a virtual office freed up so much time for me that just from a pure business aspect, I don't know how I could calculate it, but it has to have made me money in the last several years. Thought it was a bad decision.
Very nice.
Good.
It's good. I like that.
Stop and take.
Top two.
Boom.